In this video, we're going to be looking at the threat for some severe weather for portions of the Southern Plains and Tornado Alley early this week. Here, looking at Tuesday and Wednesday, as we have very favorable conditions, and the SPC already has a 15% chance hatched already 3 days out. So keeping a very close eye on whether we can get enhanced or above. But without further ado, let's get into the forecast. So here to look now at the day 3 outlook. So we do have a very large slight risk already here. So we've had this slight risk in this region since day 7. I mean, that was the scary part about seeing already a slight risk, a very large 50% chance on day 7. Here we are now on day 3. Still at a slight risk here, but there's definitely a chance we can get to an enhanced risk. But we do have already around 4 million people under this level 2 slight risk. It includes portions of southern Tornado Alley and just general the southern portion of the United States. They're in the South Central Plains, basically, including areas like Oklahoma City, Wichita, Lubbock, Abilene, and Norman. So we're kind of including more of a May type pattern already here, kind of more of active Tornado Alley and South Central so far of the month of May here. So far, many of the events we've had so far this month have been either kind of in the Ozarks or in Tornado Alley alone here. It's been an active Dixie Alley, or not really. It's kind of been I way below average Dixie Alley, but it's definitely been pretty active for areas outside Dixie Alley, which is kind of what I figured would happen here this April as we saw such a kind of Dixie Alley focused March. And marginal already including around 11.2 million people. So if you guys in this marginal, there could definitely be a chance, possibly depending where you are, whether you're in the I'd say maybe the Tulsa area or possibly into the areas like Arlington. Just keeping a very close eye on whether there could possibly be slight risk moving into your area, because there's definitely a very good chance an enhanced risk will be issued by tomorrow evening here for at least a small portion here across western Oklahoma and north central and northwestern Texas, which is kind of where we were looking at yesterday. So or not yesterday, sorry, looking at on was it Friday. It was Friday here. We saw, of course, I believe 6 tornadoes in that region here. So keeping a very close eye on those areas for Tuesday until Wednesday morning here. So we do have a 15% chance significant severe risk for severe weather, including just about a million people in portions of the northwestern portion of Texas and far western Oklahoma. This includes areas such as Lubbock, Midland, Big Spring, and Plainview. And then we have a very large, again, 15%, which is where we have the slight risk, including that 4 million, including OKC, Wichita, Lubbock, Abilene, and Norman here. But keeping a very close eye on whether there can possibly be maybe an enhanced risk by tomorrow, and keeping a very close eye on whether they can be higher than an enhanced risk. But keeping a very close eye on this, since it was very concerned that we had a slight risk as far as day 7. But again, gotta keep consideration that there could possibly be some cap here. But again, we still have just basically about 3 days till this main event kind of kicks in. So keeping a very close eye on this. So let's go now and get ahead and look here at the European. So let's go actually a little bit to now Tuesday, 5 o'clock. So we're going to start seeing our first storms developing by Tuesday evening here. So it's going to kind of be mainly a big overnight event. We're talking basically mainly early Wednesday morning is going to be the threat for possibly the main the supercells and tornadic storms. That's going to kind of be the main time frame we're going to be really watching out for, which is why it's going to be such a concern here. Maybe if it's only an enhanced risk, this wouldn't be concerned for possibly 1 or 2 big overnight tornadoes across these regions, which is definitely not something you want to see at all. So kind of 5 o'clock, trying to get those storms starting to pop off there. Cape Valley is really good humidity, very warm temperatures. I mean, these storms are going to start popping off there. And then once we get to 8 o'clock here, the low 3-hour difference is going to start becoming a lot more widespread there now across western Oklahoma, still getting there near the panhandle of Texas, and maybe even making their way towards southern Kansas. But let's not go towards Wednesday 2 a.m. This is kind of when things are going to start getting really crazy now for portions of northwestern Texas and southwestern Oklahoma. Looking at possibly some pretty intense cells here, possibly supercells and surface-based storms, and even some pretty significant possibly severe thunderstorms going as far as maybe the Wichita region, Topeka. As we get to 8 a.m. here, these storms will kind of become a lot less intense here, but still going to be seeing possibly some gusty winds, maybe some nice hail, and possibly no, just based on the area, we're gonna be seeing some pretty good lapse rates. It's kind of we've seen a pretty good big pattern so far this year, very large and gorilla-sized hail for Texas and Oklahoma specifically. So that's kind of been the main topic for these regions here, hail. The events we've seen here, whether it was that first, I guess, outbreak of the year, the one in the Texas Panhandle, not moderate risk. Obviously, we had a lot of tornadoes. I think it was 25, 26 tornadoes, but we saw some really nice hail as well with the even the event we saw last or this past week here on Friday and Saturday. We saw some pretty significant hail across Texas and Oklahoma. So this is going to be definitely a big threat as we go into the early morning hours here, even though I guess the tornado activity will die off. So we're going to be seeing some pretty good hail. But we're not getting now until Wednesday in the afternoon. Again, you possibly see a multi-day threat for severe weather because Wednesday evening could possibly be intense there for portions of the South Central, including Missouri there, Kansas, and Oklahoma. And these storms can possibly go as far down as Texas here. Because we're going to be seeing some pretty good favorable conditions, including a nice low jet to bring a stream out to Shear there. And then I get to Thursday as well. Going to be really watching out even by Thursday morning here, possibly some pretty intense storms there across the South Central. So definitely a multi-severe weather threat for this week here. But the main day will definitely be Tuesday night into Wednesday morning for sure. No questions asked. But let's now go and take a look now at the temperatures on Tuesday. Very, very warm temperature. We're going to be seeing widespread 80s here. I mean, even 70s going as far north as Wisconsin. So we're going to be seeing a massive warm up. We saw a huge cold front in these areas last week. I mean, we saw 40s, and obviously we saw that big snowstorm there, bringing snow as far as this Tulsa and Fayetteville, Arkansas. So there's definitely be a pretty significant warm up here. The complete different pattern compared to last week. I'm getting into the upper 80s there near Kansas and portions of Omaha in the lower 80s. So pretty warm. That's going to really allow for some pretty nice K values. And as we now go into now the afternoon on Tuesday, going to get up to 90 degrees there near Kansas. Going to get up to 84 there. 85 near northwestern Missouri. So in general, very warm temperature, anywhere from the mid 70s to the upper 80s. So extremely warm and unseasonably warm temperatures across these regions. But let's now talk about, since we're really going to be looking out for an overnight threat. So 7 o'clock, some storms will start to become severe, specifically across western Oklahoma and northern Texas. Very warm temperatures, 74, 75, and getting as high as 80 degrees there across Texas. And it's now going to the overnight hours, 1 a.m. We're going to start getting some pretty intense storms widespread across Oklahoma and Texas, and even some pretty intense storms in Kansas. Look at that. In the middle of the night, seeing some mid 80s and some mid 70s and lower 70s. So still very great conditions there for some severe weather. And that's the thing, when you start seeing the big warm ups, these conditions will be favorable all night long here, instead of like a March outbreak. Typically, the temperatures kind of go into the 50s and lower 60s by 2 a.m. But since we're kind of getting a lot closer to May and a pretty significant warm front's coming in, we're going to start seeing some widespread 70s throughout the whole night. So that's going to definitely be a big threat there and factor to this overnight event here. And now it's going to go later into the morning hours on Wednesday, going to start early watching out now for portions of Kansas and Missouri, again, Oklahoma and Texas there, a multi-severe weather threat. And get another warm day here for Wednesday in the afternoon. Going to get some really warm temperatures, actually getting into the hundreds and triple digits there in South Central Texas. But we're watching for Tornado Alley, going to be kind of staying around these 70s there. As well, even Thursday, some pretty good conditions there for portions of Texas, Louisiana, possibly Arkansas as well. But we'll have to get a little bit closer for that to kind of get into the actual details for that. Let's now go ahead and look at the dew points here for Tuesday and Wednesday. By Tuesday evening, very nice dew points here into the mid and even upper 60s across Texas and Oklahoma. And go overnight, actually those dew points will increase here for you. I'm going to get into the upper 60s and even some widespread 70s across portions of lower Texas and as well even portions of Louisiana. Even watching out for that severe weather on Wednesday evening as well across portions of the South Central, seeing some upper 60s and lower 70s across Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, and as well even portions down there into north central Texas. It's going to continue to be very favorable throughout the whole week, though, since as a result of that big warm front. Let's now go ahead and look how this is all going to affect the Cape values. Going to be seeing some pretty good Cape values as 3 o'clock. Going to get ready. Some mid thousands, 1,300, 1,400. As we now get later into the evening hours, and start getting increasing numbers up to 2,000 joules per kilogram there in South or into a portion of kind of west central Texas with some widespread 1,000 plus across western Oklahoma and as well western Texas. Obviously, not the best numbers, but of course, as we get a little bit closer overnight, those numbers will get a little bit better. You're going to get nearly 2,800 joules per kilogram there into northwestern Texas. That's going to kind of be the really area to watch out, since we'll be seeing at least according to the European European model, our best Cape values will be in northwestern Texas here. But as we now go overnight 2-3 a.m., still going to be seeing some widespread 1,000 plus joules per kilogram. Let's now go ahead and look at the K index to give us a better idea how favorable the conditions are for severe weather and what the probability is based on the scale. And we're going to be seeing some pretty high numbers already. Let's actually now go towards 5 o'clock on Tuesday. I'm going to be seeing some lower 30s and even mid 30s across the areas. We're going to be really watching out for our first storms to develop, and that will be northwestern Texas and southwestern Oklahoma. But by 8 o'clock, big jump there into the upper 30s there as well, lower 40s. It go to a 43.6. We're going to be kind of right here. Pretty good number for the first hours of this whole event. And as we now get 3 a.m. or 2 to 5 a.m., still going to be seeing some pretty good numbers there. Some 30s and as well getting into the lower 40s. And of course, going to be a multi-severe weather threat by Wednesday evening. Really going to really be watching out for Kansas, Oklahoma, portions of Texas, and as well Missouri, with some widespread 30s and 40s on the K index scale. You can kind of see pretty good probability in general to see some pretty decent severe weather or some at least severe thunderstorms. Let's now go ahead and look at the light flash density here. This is going to be give us a better idea of where these most, or at least based on how far we are now, to get a better idea of where these intense severe thunderstorms can be and which one's going to be more intense. Obviously, kind of looking at the MSLP, it's kind of really hard which one's going to be severe and which one's just going to be regular rain. But it's going to give us a better idea of where we're seeing those intense flash density from lightning to give us a better idea where these actual severe thunderstorms and not just general thunderstorms will be here. So by 6 o'clock here on Tuesday, gang, it's early watching out for portions of northwestern Texas. You can kind of see some pretty intense lightning there, over 6,500 there, 6,500 there, across portions there of northwestern Texas, and even some widespread, I'd say 250 to 1,000 across portions of western Oklahoma. So I mean, decent thunderstorms kind of starting to develop there. But by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, they become a lot more widespread. And now by 10 o'clock, widespread across the Panhandle, Texas, and in western Oklahoma. So 10 o'clock, actually 10 o'clock is when we have those highest Cape values across northwestern Texas. So it's kind of all matches up there. Get 8,500. So that's definitely a ton of intense storms here. They bring a ton of lightning across northwestern Texas. So gonna really watch out, I guess, for if enhancements will be issued. It most likely kind of be there near the Lubbock, near the Atlas area of Oklahoma. So this is going to be really the area to watch out for this whole event here, specifically there for Tuesday into Wednesday. And of course, as we know, go overnight, we will start to see some pretty intense storms. We will still see some really high amounts of lightning. You're probably thinking, hey, these lightning values are going to increase as we go overnight. So does that mean they're going to get a lot more intense? Not really. Just means obviously, yeah, there's going to be a ton of lightning, but the tornadic threat will obviously go down. Obviously, the Cape values will go down. The temperature will go down. So we're going to be seeing some good temperatures and dew points, but the Cape values will be a little bit on the iffy side. So yeah, we're going to be seeing still some pretty intense hail and winds. But in general, they're going to kind of go from surface-based thunderstorms to elevated thunderstorms as we go in the overnight hours and possibly become part of a squall line here. And of course, watching out for some severe storms by Wednesday afternoon there or evening there across portions of Kansas, Missouri, even Texas once again, in Oklahoma. You guys see some nice lighting there across Oklahoma, Texas, and as well some pretty good, some nice flashing of lights there of lightning across portions of even southeastern Kansas. That wording was that was the worst wording ever. Like, that was really weird and awkward wording. I apologize for that. Last but not least, let's go ahead and check a look now at the shear here. So we're going to be seeing some pretty good shear. Let's go ahead and look at 500 millibars. So getting to Tuesday here on the 2 o'clock time frame, seeing some pretty nice, strong, low-level jet here coming, of course, from the southwest there, bringing in some pretty good amount of shear across northern Texas, western Kansas, western Oklahoma, and just general much of the south central. Going to get up to as high as 85 knots across portions of Kansas, Texas, and Oklahoma. That's 2 o'clock. So now go to around 8 o'clock, which is kind of when those storms will start to get severe, and you kind of see in the air, we're going to be really watching out. Going to be seeing anywhere from the mid-40s to possibly into the mid-50s there, knot-wise. Let's go overnight. Seeing some really extreme amounts of shear there overnight there, 2 a.m. across the Panhandle of Texas. Can get up to the upper 80s, but in general, widespread areas we're going to be really watching out for the overnight hours. We're going to be seeing some mid-40s to as high as the upper 50s in knots, and that's going to be 500 millibars. Let's now go look at 925 millibars here to get a better idea. We're going to be looking at kind of closer to the surface. So let's actually here get a look here. Let me actually get a better look at what we'll be looking at. So here's now a look at the, let's go ahead and look at 5 o'clock here at 925 millibars. You can kind of see where we, let's see, 5 o'clock. We're going to be seeing some scattered areas there, some pretty good shear across northwestern Texas, going to get up into the lower 30s, so nothing too crazy in the actual surface by 5 o'clock here, but really a ton of shear higher in the atmosphere. But as we now get to 11 o'clock here, we're going to be seeing at least a little bit increase there, getting into some areas I can get into the lower 30s, but in general, the surface really won't have that much shear. Let's go to 900 millibars, a little bit better, going to get up to the lower 40s at least, so surface is still a little bit on the iffy side shear wise, but if we go a little bit higher to 500 millibars, really high temperature, getting nearly 90 knots here. But hope you guys enjoyed the video there. This will kind of be a little, I guess, a little update on what we're be expecting by Tuesday. I will have a bit more detailed forecast by tomorrow here. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video and see you guys later.